Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Let's Talk Tuesday this week. I'm Sabrina Richards, your president, and here I'm to welcome Mr. Backovich, Ms. Cress, and Lilly from Liberty High School to talk about leadership in the virtual world. I'm super excited to hear this conversation, so you guys take it away.
All right, thanks, Sabrina. Hi, I'm Julia Topholm. I'm also part of the NASC family. I'm the Northern Region Executive, and I'm going to stick around and kind of just help facilitate today. So thanks again for everybody being here, and we're going to jump in and start talking about the start of the school year and this virtual world that we are going to start jumping into. So I think a good place to start is with Scott. What are some suggestions that you can give us, or pieces of advice that can help teachers and students jump into this new world that we're going into to start our school year?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think in the spring, there was this kind of ongoing thought that, hey, like all of these teachers responded so beautifully to the crisis in trying to manage and maintain and thrive in this environment. And I think our expectations, or maybe our hopes, were that come this fall, we would have some sort of semblance of being in person, or at least all students being able to be in community every day. And obviously those are happening in various degrees, but the simple fact is we're going back to a distance-based model in some respects, and a lot of schools in all respects. And so the question becomes, like, how do we actually make students feel comfortable and welcomed and appreciated? And I think for me, my vantage point of training schools and working with so many schools with activities is we have to use our activities now more than ever to make sure we're communicating and to make sure that we're letting students know that they're seen and valued on campus or online.
You know, to add to that, I think at Sparks High, we're really focusing on our social media aspect because so many of our students are on social media and they're on them constantly. And one of our main focuses at the beginning of the year is how do we get all of our freshmen to follow that social media page? Because at Sparks, we're going hybrid. So we have some in school and some online, and we flip-flop. And we all know we're going to go distance at some point. So our main focus right now is how do we connect with those freshmen, and how do we get those freshmen onto our social media platforms so that when we do go distance, we still have that form of communication. We still have that way of making sure that we're staying connected to the student.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point in that, like, it has to, like, we have to have a platform for it, right? Like in a normal world, I think one thing we often take for granted is that our students show up, our audience for activities, our audience literally, legally speaking, has to show up every single day. And so we spend a lot of our time advertising events because our audience is literally walking the halls past our posters, and they're walking the halls past our announcements. They're hearing our morning announcements. They're right there in front of us. And what makes this year so challenging is that platform has been kind of taken out from under us. So we have to develop that platform. And luckily there's a lot of ways to do so, but I love, Tiffany, obviously I work with your students every year, and it's like one of the highlights of my year. But like, you guys have done such a good job just in the last year of building that platform, the last few years. Because what have your numbers jumped to? Like from then, like, I know it's been pretty dramatic.
We went from like 100 to like 1,600 in 1 year.
Yeah.
And I will say, you know, a lot of that was because, you know, with working with you, we started realizing that the more that we spotlighted students and highlighted students on our social media platform, the more students started to follow, and not just students, but also teachers and families, which was great when this all started because we were able to communicate what was happening with distance learning and with the pandemic, and through that social media platform. And as we spotlighted students, as we had teachers reach out to their students through it, and had students reach out to teachers through our social media, people started following because they want to be a part, right? And they see their friends being a part, so they want to hop on there as well. And I think it's, you know, and you said in the beginning, Scott, that we want to make sure that students feel accepted and valued. And one of the ways that we can do that is by highlighting students constantly.
Yeah.
And that's one of our main goals this year, is to constantly highlight students. Because again, 2 reasons. 1, we want students to actually feel that value and that connection. And 2, when you highlight, I mean, just inherently, when you highlight students, their friends are going to hop on to see that highlight. They are going to hop on, their families. And you end up building that community up by simply just appreciating your community.
Lily, do you find that from your vantage point that like a lot of your friends and a lot of people at Liberty, do you find that they're being even like striving to be even more connected now than they usually would be?
Absolutely. So a lot of Liberty is pretty much already on our platforms, and if not, we're really pushing to get that. And I can totally confirm what Miss Cress is saying. Absolutely, our friends will totally jump on to see highlights, but we're also motivated through incentives. So I feel like that's something that we should keep in the back of our minds this year, especially when it comes to Spirit Weeks, virtual Spirit Weeks, or assemblies. That's something that we might need to turn to get students to participate. And participation is going to be a big kind of like roadblock for all of us. I mean, from a leadership point of view, I feel like what us as student leaders need to remember is that we kind of need to prepare to be unprepared, if that makes any sense, because we're going to have to be flexible. We're going to have to try a lot of new things. Like a lot of our traditions aren't going to be the same. And I mean, I feel like we should look at it more as like an opportunity than a setback. This is a time when we can really get to try new things that we haven't done before, or reach our audience in a different way. With everything going on in the world right now, I feel like everyone's voices are going to be valued and everyone's going to be heard, whether it be through themselves or like a Google form that we might send out for whatever reason. This year is going to be a challenge, but I feel like it's going to be a really fun time to experience new things and try new things out as a council.
I just wrote down your quote because I need that in my life. We have to prepare to be unprepared. That was such a beautiful quote, and I love it.
It's
I love
2020
that too.
quote.
Yes. It is the quote of 2020. I love it.
And I think you nailed it right when you said that, to prepare to be unprepared. And I think from an advisor standpoint, some of us are having to really start to teach our fellow staff members how to use this social media and how to jump onto it, because it's totally out of their wheelhouse. They may use Facebook, or they may have been old school when MySpace was still cool, and those types of things. But a lot of teachers are still, they want to see the kids in the classroom. They want to have that kind of traditional structure. And that's what's not going to happen this year. We're going to have a little bit of that when we get to see our students in our hybrid models, if that's what your school is going to be doing, and we get to see you a couple days a week. But a lot of teachers, we're going to have to be adapting to this new style. So for us, it's a learning curve just as it is for our students. And so as tough as it is, I think it's going to be an opportunity for us as teachers, advisors, and students to really collaborate together and figure out how we're going to navigate the waters of the next few months that are going to be coming up. Because we honestly don't know how long this is going to last. And we can prepare what we can, but there's going to be all those other things that are going to be out there that we cannot prepare for. So what you said, that nailed it. Be prepared to be unprepared. Love that.
Lily, I have a question for you. So you said that incentives, like that that incentives will bring people. Do you have suggestions for incentives? Because we're doing one thing with our kids, but like it would be nice to have a few in the wheelhouse.
Yeah, for sure. I know that our school does this, but I'm not sure if any other one. But we usually get T-shirts that are sponsored by different companies, and we're not going to be able to hold those connections this year just because we're not going to be able to hand out T-shirts or anything like that with distance learning. But I feel like reaching out to those companies, maybe getting like little gift cards to, $5 gift cards, hand this out if you win this competition or whatnot. I feel like that would be super beneficial and would get a lot of attention. But little stuff like that, because I mean, honestly, whether it be a shout out on an Instagram page, which I think is awesome. Personally, like with our school, Liberty did, it was us shouting out stories or students telling their stories on like our platforms. And I don't know, I feel like students getting that spotlight was super like meaningful to them, especially since some of the stories were very personal. It delved into their personal lives and what they've learned, and that would kind of motivate their students throughout the year. I feel like that would be nice, just because with everything going on, whether it be issues that students have had to deal with in relation to race or, oppression. Basically, our students were able to kind of understand more of what's going on in our student body, how people act and why they do things. And I feel like, especially during these times, that's kind of a perspective we need to help students develop. Scott, what's your perspective from like a third person, kind of like third party point of view?
On incentives, it's interesting. My always approach to activity, I think, is vantage point that I want students, I think the greatest incentive for students is a community that cares about them. And so my rationale behind that is I think that there are multiple reasons, like motivations, that students can participate in activities. And I think the goal of any school is students wanting to participate because they feel a true sense of belonging to that school. And so I think one of the big challenges this year is schools figuring out and almost front loading in, like, hey, how can we figure out, how can we make sure all of our students know that we're here and that we care about them and that we see them from day one? And it's a really, really kind of interesting challenge that schools are having to battle and face and deal with. But again, figuring out how we welcome students in from day one, establishing that platform to make sure students are aware, so that when the time comes when we're asking them to participate in something and asking them to be involved in something greater than themselves, there's that kind of that social anxiety they might feel or panic they might feel of worry about judgment or worry if they'll be alone or if their friends will or won't participate, kind of starts to dissipate because they know they're a part of something greater than themselves. I know, Tiffany, I know you guys have worked crazy hard on that at Sparks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've really built up, I think, in the past 3 years, we've really built up that, like, trying to make sure every student feels welcome, feels loved. We've done a lot of individual recognition within students, and it's helped. I think, we've really tried to become a service leadership versus, just like, we're doing activities, like trying to really serve our school constantly. And I think it's really helped both. And honestly, I think this year, we really do need to focus on students, but we also need to focus on our staff. I know a lot of staff right now is feeling anxious. They're worried, they're nervous. And so, and that's also going to go into their lessons with the students and their time with the students. So that's another focus we're looking at this year is making sure that students feel appreciated and staff feels appreciated and staff feels welcomed and staff feels loved, because there's just so much, I think, for teachers right now, there's so much stress and there's a lot of scrutiny coming from the public and they're not feeling very loved. So our main focus, starting out the school year is going to be both parties. I mean, we're really going to be looking at both teachers and students and building up those relationships as well.
And in many respects, we're doing a lot of those same things up here at Lowry High School. But I was talking with one of my fellow teachers. She's going into her 29th year this year, and which snaps for that 29 years. But she's like, I feel like a first year teacher again. And she's the type of person that shows up at every student spirit event. She dresses up for homecoming, and she's the type of person that loves her students so much. But this is the first time that I've ever seen her get stressed, and it's because of, like you said, Tiffany, the negative energy that's coming in about teachers, the new direction that we have to go. And it's something that she's not used to, but she's a lifelong learner. And so I applaud her for that. She just keeps asking the question, well, what do I do next? She's losing a little bit of her motivation. I think we need to help not only our students continue to be motivated, but also help our staff members to keep that motivation up, because that's what we're here for. We're here for our students, but we also need to make sure that we're supporting each other as colleagues. And so what would you guys have suggestions or ideas about how we could go about doing that for our staff?
You just a great idea. I don't know what's happening right now. I sounded like I was possessed. What was that? Okay.
That's about to be on my phone forever. I'm just going to screen grab that, and that's going to be the ringtone forever.
Yes. I'm so excited about this.
Okay.
So you just gave me a great idea, because I was like, why, for example, I am going to be changing up my classroom and I'm going to be doing videos for my math classroom. I'm going to be doing videos and then playing those for the students that are in class and kind of like being my own co-teacher and going around to the students and talking to them. And then that way I can upload it for students who are quarantined, who are sick, like anything like that. And they can learn from there and then do the assignments at home. And my teacher, the other teacher in my department, was asking me to show her and teach her that. And I'm sure there's other teachers that would be interested in that. So could we facilitate this? Could we facilitate these conversations within our schools? Find creative teachers that are doing creative things in their classrooms and just set up a platform, set up a Zoom where we allow for those teachers to show their staff members how they're doing this, what apps they're using. I know a lot of teachers are interested in a Bitmoji classroom. Could we facilitate a Bitmoji classroom instructional time, so that those people that have no idea what they're doing can come in and get the ideas and get the training from a teacher? Because I don't know about you guys, but those training videos the training videos we're watching in Washoe County are not fabulous. Somebody's going to see this and I'm going to get tired of it. But, I think, and we learn better. I think we learn from fellow staff. I think we learn better because we're actually doing it in our classrooms. And so we've worked out the tweaks and everything. And could we do that to relieve some stress on teachers? And then also, if we allow students to come in and kind of see how it's working, would students then be able to know what's going on in the classroom, be able to help their fellow students as well within those apps?
For sure. And I just want to make a comment really quick on that whole maybe having teachers get together while on a Zoom meeting and learning from one another. That would also be super beneficial to students. I know that a lot of teachers in any setting really enjoy being in the classroom and only teach a certain way. And, even though students can learn visually or just like on paper, they just choose their way. And it's going to be a change for every teacher and every subject. So that type of push, that type of idea, creativity that they can get to kind of teach their students better and try to get them to understand the best they can on an online platform, that would be awesome. But also on the topic of getting teachers and staff to keep motivated, keep spirited during the school year, I know for sure that our custodians are going to need it. They're doing so much work, and they're not going to be in school for a while. They're not going to have much to do. So I feel like that appreciation is going to go far, whether it be custodians or any staff member at all. Appreciation goes a long way. I know at Liberty we do adopt a teacher, and we're not going to be able to have that in-person type of connection to continue it. Real quick, does everybody know what the concept of adopt a teacher is?
No, I was going to ask you to tell me about it.
Basically, adopt a teacher is this thing that we set up to kind of do exactly what I said, which is appreciate teachers and staff for their work. And for the stuff that they do outside of the classroom or outside of whatever their kind of profession is. Basically, we assign students multiple teachers, multiple staff members to kind of keep in contact with throughout the year, kind of notify them of events going on and spirit days to kind of get them involved as well. Because while the student body is the core of our school and spirit, the staff members matter as well because they're the ones that work from the inside. Basically, that's going to be kind of tough for us this year, considering the fact that the only way we can get into contact with them is through email. Or, if we're lucky to have teachers that do this through text, I still think that it's going to be a real backbone to keeping students connected with teachers online other than in the classroom and in a school setting where we're just learning. But I definitely think that councils integrating this with their students and their teachers and staff would be super beneficial, not only for the students to kind of hold a connection throughout the school year, but also for teachers and staff to kind of keep motivated and keep going. So I don't know, do any of your guys' schools, not Scott, but do any of your guys' schools kind of have any tips for keeping spirit up this year, whether it be through students or through staff?
So I was thinking when you were talking about how the students have a hard time reaching out to the teachers, could you have your students who adopted those select teachers do a shout out to them on your social media and kind of reach out to them in that aspect too? And or create a challenge where one person will challenge 5 teachers to dress up the next day, and then those teachers can challenge other teachers or something like that. Maybe do a challenge train or something. I just think again, so like, I hate to keep going back to social media, but it seems to be just like one of our main and our greatest platforms right now. And I think it's good to get teachers involved on social media. We got one of our teachers came to me today, in fact, and was like, the only reason I got an Instagram was because of you guys. And I was like, okay.
Oh, that's so good.
I'll take it. So I think we can get some of these teachers to hop on board with our social media. And when you challenge, I mean, like we do, so at the beginning of the pandemic, we were doing shout outs, and the kids would go down below and be like, hey, we want to see Miss Frias. We want to see Mr. Garcia. And then so I would email them as the advisor and say, hey, you've been requested on the social media. And then they would make videos and send them in. Teachers who literally have never done anything in our school building sent in videos because they were special requested. I think featuring teachers, once you start featuring teachers, the kids will start asking for their other ones, or you can put in, who would you like to see next? And that might get some of those teachers involved because, again, they're being special requested, which means they know that they're valued, they know that they're appreciated. And so I think that'll get them to start participating more.
And just building off that participation and social media, I'll be honest, I was not an Instagram person until April. I will be honest, just because I am an old school person at heart. I'm an art teacher, so there's that sense of tactile and in person. But I'm a fan, I'm not gonna lie. I've been converted. For me, like when I told my students that I was like, yeah, I got an Instagram because like I get what you guys are talking about now. And that is such a connection point that we can use, that we can bring into our classrooms. And so I think if we can figure out ways to possibly help all of our staff, and even if it's the students teaching us how to incorporate that into our classrooms and into our activities even more in an effective way, I think that would be good. So Scott, my question to you is like, how would you direct like a group of students or staff members that you've been working with? How would you suggest that we would integrate that more into the classroom aspects of learning environment for us as teachers?
I think, like from an activity standpoint to start, like I think every activity and everything we do, really, there's a set of tools that we have to use to accomplish whatever we're doing. So a good example would be in a traditional classroom setting, there's a number of tools, practices, common things we use to communicate, to teach, and to prepare students. Same way in the activities world, when we're at school, there's some common items, some common tools we use, and a lot of random ones because we're leadership. That we use to do different activities, whether it's poster paper, whether it's paint, whether it's announcements, whether it's whatever our typical tools are. I think what's interesting is I don't think that our purpose as leaders has changed. I don't. I just think we've been forced to change the tools we use. And so one thing I think we need to be looking out for constantly, like, all right, what does our current toolbox look like? One thing that we've been running through in all the trainings we've been doing with leadership groups, and I just got done with a couple of them today, is we take our big activities, like for example, homecoming or anything like that, and rather than just trying to put the word virtual in front of it and hope that it still holds water, the idea becomes, hey, what if we break down the activity for what it does, like what tools we use and what benefits we receive from it? So a good example would be, rather than looking at homecoming and saying, hey, we're doing virtual homecoming and we're going to do more virtual spirit weeks and we're going to put virtual in front of everything, what if we decide, hey, let's break down homecoming for what it is? Homecoming, the features of homecoming, whether it's a dance or a football game or a spirit week or music at lunch and all the different things that make up our homecoming. Let's go to the other end and let's look at the benefits, whether it's community or whether it's inclusion or whether it's competition with another school. We look at the benefits the activity actually gives us. And instead of trying to figure out if there's a way to put those features online, what if we use the tools we have? And guess what? Your students are the utmost experts on the planet at online tools. And say, hey, how can we use this toolbox you know about online to replicate the benefits? Because I know if we can find a way to replicate the benefits, students can find a way to make sure that students interact online. They're kind of pros at it. They can find a way to compete with other schools online. They can find a way to let students know they're appreciated online. And so it's just a way of looking at it. I think that goes for all of education right now. I think right now we're using a different toolbox that we're not used to. And I think rather than trying to find what tool best replicates the tool we had in class, I think our kind of mindset should shift to, hey, what if we found the best tool that replicates the benefit that students receive from this? And it's like, it's a minor kind of mental switch, but I think one that, at least for all the schools we've worked with, has been a huge help to them.
It's such an easy visual to kind of put into context with students, because they see all of our tools that we use. We have our paintbrushes, we have our markers, we have our moments where we get to plan games and things like that with getting those supplies, and just getting that moment to say, okay, here are our tools. How are we going to adjust the way that we produce this to get the benefit? And the benefit could be even greater than what we initially thought. And so I think giving the students that challenge to think creativity, use that creative thinking, and put those tools to work could create some possibly really great things that are totally unexpected, that we were unprepared for. Brought that back.
To pick on Tiffany's students for a second, we were working with our kiddos a little while ago, and we did this quick side-by-side where we had the kids do like essentially a very similar brainstorm using like traditional tools and using online tools. And the moment they realized how expansive their online toolbox was, it was like, oh wait, like we can do some stuff we've never done before. And I think in a normal world, I think we're all very used to seeing student leaders excited during summer because they see all their possibilities. But I think 2020 is a little different, because I think the average student leader is more concerned than not about things that won't be happening. And so being able to provide them all of this kind of overhead view of like, hey, there's all this stuff we could do that nobody's ever done before, to actually generate that excitement again is going to be huge for us. Because if we're worried about, for example, our students being engaged, and we're worrying about our teachers being engaged, one thing that I started worrying about last spring is every activities advisor ever has experienced the February to March drop off of their senior student leaders, where like they stop feeling motivated, their activities are kind of done. And when all of this happened, I think one of the questions I asked was, hey, what about September? Like, are we going to experience a drop off from our seniors in September, October? And so if we have a whole school relying on us for hope, because I think that's one of our jobs, if we have a whole school relying on us, I think we have to get in the pattern of relying on one another and making sure we're doing some major self-care as a leadership organization, and making sure we're fully prepared to go for the year and constantly helping one another through the process.
And I think just kind of going back to, really thinking about what our end goal is. I think it's such a beautiful way. I mean, in the classroom, we backwards plan all the time, right? And so in a traditional classroom, we backwards plan. We start with what our end goal needs to be and figure out how we build up to that. And it's so funny that I don't know that we do that all the time with activities. I think we go with like the tradition. So what a cool time in history that we get to do that backwards planning. And we get to start with what is our goal for our school and for our students and our staff, and how do we make that happen? One other thing I was cracking up, Scott, we have an activities admin, and in our meeting yesterday, they were like, well, he's not gonna be over activities anymore because we won't have activities. And I was like, whoa. I was like, wait a second. I was like, we're not gonna have in-person activities, but that does not mean
we have so many activities. Yeah.
We're gonna have so many activities. So because like you said, once you realize the toolbox that is the internet and virtual, and I know we hate the word virtual, but it's okay. Once we realize that toolbox is very vast and there's so many things you can do with it, I think we can absolutely bring activities in. It's new and it's scary, and it's going to be hard to dive in, but baby steps.
Yep.
For sure. And as students, as student leaders, we are kind of pushed to be innovative and be creative and be open-minded all the time. And I feel like it's super important for us to have a growth mindset, as well as advisors and teachers and whoever we're surrounded with, because we do pick up on what our environment gives us. But I don't know. I feel like with the mindset that we have, we should kind of use it to our advantage. I know that it's kind of tough to kind of stay optimistic and stay happy with everything going on. I know that we're all faced with a lot of issues, but it's definitely a part of being a student leader that you need to have a positive mindset, have a growth mindset, and kind of learn from everything and every experience you ever have. So that's going to be interesting this year.
And I think touching on what you said about, we are the group, and you guys are the group that are the creative and innovative, and there's going to be a lot of people relying on you to be the creative and innovative. And I say that because as the leadership teacher. My principal has come to me multiple times over the last week to be the creative and innovative brain. And I had a breakdown yesterday where I was like, I'm sick of being the creative person and like always having to rack my brain, because it gets exhausting. And so, Scott mentioned it, we really need to focus this year also on self-care and teaching our students how to, and Lily, for you to teach your fellow classmates to take care of themselves. Self-care. I mean, I think what I want to bring in with my class is meditation. Even meditating for 5 minutes at the beginning of class, just to have that time to self-reflect and breathe and take it in. Because, while we're super excited about this and we have our goal set, there also just needs to be a little moment like for ourselves where we go, okay, breathe, reset my mind and give my mind a little rest. Because I think there's gonna be a lot of pressure on you guys this year to really be that creative and innovative piece. And admin's going to be looking to you, teachers are going to be looking to you, and again, can't pour from an empty cup. So we're going to have that conversation constantly of how do we fill our cup before we fill others.
I feel like that also opens up the conversation of bringing mental health into the question this year, whether it be for, I know you had a breakdown, like whether it be for advisors, teachers, and students. I feel like that's something that we're going to have to put first. Meditation is a great way to bring it into the classroom, but I feel like if teachers really do want to look further into it, that's something that should definitely be in the question and never ruled out, because we are going to get burnt out. We are going to get overwhelmed with this huge change, and kind of, trying to transition everything going on. But
so just to build off the mental health, I totally agree with that. Bringing the meditation into your classrooms, even if there's those moments where it's just like take 5 minutes and just have a nice conversation about what you need to have a conversation about with your partner, or you just need a minute to get up and move. Like movement is going to be such a big thing for health self-care this year, because with students being quarantined and not getting out and not having their sports in the fall, like that physical movement, I know for me, that's one of the things that I get up and have been doing a lot since we've been in quarantine, just because I miss that movement of being around my students and walking around my classroom. And so for me, that's a self-care thing. And I think for a lot of our students who are in the smaller schools, and I know Sparks is probably the same way, we have student leaders that are volleyball players, we have student leaders that are football players, they're in National Honor Society, they're doing everything. And so they're going to need those moments where they can just say, hey, I need to take care of me. And I think as teachers and advisors, if we set that in place for them to do that, it's really going to help us progress in a positive way throughout the school year.
I totally agree. I mean, last year we did a balloon, we had a balloon or water balloon fight when, things got really stressful, and we did a smash thing where we took a sledgehammer and literally smashed different things, goggles and safety precautions all taken. And so that was a really great way for us to take out our stress and our, I want to say aggression, but you guys know what I mean. We really can't do that this year, so there's got to be ways that we can, challenge people. And even if we do, like let's say that, because I know that we'll be in person, or hybrid, but if you guys, do like Zoom yoga or like work out together over Zoom, some way to get out that physical stress and that physical or that anxiety through physical motion. Again, some people do really well with meditation. I do, sitting and breathing, and some people do better if they can work it out. And I think it's good for us to really teach our students how to multiple ways to get out their stress.
I do this with my students. We do a 30-second Grey's Anatomy moment. Christina and Meredith, let's dance it out, people. If that's what you need, 30-second dance party, do it. Because, that's just going to, and trust me, the kids love it. And it's just that little bit of time that lets them just be a kid. And I think that's one thing that we do need to remember, is that we're still working with kids and young adults. And
we do 30-second karaoke. Yeah. So we're a little off, but
my kids don't want to hear me sing. Trust me.
it's even like "Don't Stop Believing," where everybody is like screaming like "Don't Stop," or "I Want It That Way" has made a comeback, and I'm all for it.
Boy bands have totally made a comeback.
Yes. So that one was a great one. But yeah, I agree. There's got to be non-physical ways to get that out too.
Yeah.
So I love.
Well, our time is about up. So any final thoughts, pieces of advice that you would like to share with our student leaders and our advisors of the state of Nevada and in the YouTube sphere?
Be kind to yourself and understand that like this is a whole new world. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to be rough sometimes, and sometimes it's going to be fabulous. But remember that this is a whole new realm for all of us. So just be kind to yourself and remember that if it doesn't go well, mistakes are made to help us grow and learn, and just continue to be kind to yourself and be kind to your counsel. And as long as you're putting your best foot forward, that's all you can do. Just remember to include everybody in your school and shout them out and love them and make them feel welcomed. And I know you guys, I mean, anybody, I think we have a pretty amazing group in Nevada of councils, and I'm excited to see what everybody does. Just be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. I just want to speak on behalf, or just speak directly to the kids and the student leaders watching this right now. But we're really going to be the backbone of our student body and their participation in their spirit this year. So kind of use your platform. You can understand the impact that your voice has. I mean, whether it be any topic that you talk about, your voice is super, super strong and very valid. And yeah, just always promote that optimism, always kind of do your best to get those students participating. And yeah, just understand that you're going to hold a really important role this year, and a lot of people are going to depend on you and look to you for a lot of things. So be prepared for that, but also be prepared to be unprepared. So
I think that I think in 2020, a lot of people, me included, are really sick of hearing bad news. It's what I really think. I think we're tired of waking up every day and being bad news. And I think one really cool way to look at our activities this year, I think our activities have the ability to be some really good news for students. I think our activities have the ability to be the bit of good news, that kind of adrenaline shot of good news and hope that students receive every day in a year where they're not receiving much. And so as much as we possibly can, as often as we possibly can, let's be some good news to students.
Well, thank you, Tiffany, Scott, and Lily, for taking your time today to be part of our Let's Talk Tuesday. It's been a lot of fun getting to chat with you, and Nevada, stay classy.